A very warm welcome to you in On Point. And before I take the two most important news of the day, let us have a look at the headlines. Hamas chief Sinwar dead. Now, will it end the war? Why Hindi Day in non-Hindi states? Stalin asked Prime Minister Modi. Stalin writes to PM Modi, argues that Hindi events in non-Hindi states strain regional relations. Former Delhi Health Minister Tarun Jain gets bail after 2 years. The AAP leader arrested by ED in money laundering case earlier. Haryana government's crackdown on stubble burning, FIR against farmers who burn or have burned paddy this season. Mumbai crime branch arrests 5 more accused in Baba Siddique murder case. Prime Minister Modi to visit Russia from October 22nd to 23rd to attend BRICS summit. This visit marks Prime Minister's second visit to Russia in a year. SC says personal laws can't hinder law preventing child marriage. CGI says such marriages are violative of minors' free will to choose life. Delhi government forms committees to bring pollution under control at 13 hotspots. A probe reveals sabotage behind Bagmati Express derailment. 6 poles were removed, diverting train onto a loop line where it collided with a stationary goods train. Yahya Sinwar's elimination by Israel ends a chapter in the Gaza war. The war has led to loss of 40,000 lives in the Strip. On 7th October 2023, more than 1,000 Israelis were killed by the terrorists and hundreds and dozens abducted. It led to displacement of 60,000 Israelis from northern areas. What followed was a meticulous plan by the State of Israel. It led to the elimination of the top leadership of both Hamas and Hezbollah. Now, these are the Hezbollah and the Hamas leaders who have been killed. Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar was eliminated in an operation. Another Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh, was also eliminated. Commander of the Hamas military wing, Mohammed Daif, is dead. Marwan Issa, the deputy Hamas military commander, has been killed. Deputy Hamas chief Salah al-Aruri has also been eliminated. Hezbollah's main leadership has also been eliminated. Leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed. One of the Hezbollah's top commander, Ali Karaki, is also dead. Nasrallah's possible successor, Hashim Safieddine, is also dead. Senior Hezbollah security official Nabil Kaouk has been eliminated. Hezbollah's commander and leading figure in the rocket division, Ibrahim Khubaisi, is also no more. Hezbollah's operation commander, Ibrahim Akil, is dead. Hezbollah's top commander, Ahmad Wahibi, has been killed. Another commander, Fauj Shukr, also eliminated, whereas Hezbollah's senior commanders like Mohammad Nasir and Talib Abdullah are also dead. Now, the world powers have responded. I would say that the response to the Sinwar's elimination was mixed. While Biden said it's time to move on, Hezbollah threatened another war. Now the issue is, has the objective, strategic objective been met? So before I go to my guests, Itay Melchior, Middle East expert and former executive of Israel's National Security Council, and Lev Aron, Israeli columnist and journalist. Before I go to them, let me play out a comprehensive package for you that has come on Reuters. And then we will discuss, will military offensive intensify or there is a chance for the ceasefire?
Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar has been killed by Israeli troops, according to Israel on Thursday. Sinwar was the mastermind of the October 7th, 2023 attack that triggered the Gaza war. His killing is a huge success for Israel and a pivotal event in the year-long conflict. There are a number of possible scenarios for what happens next.
יחיא סינואר עסק בהכנות האחרונות.
But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the war will go on. The Israeli military said it had killed Sinwar in an operation in the southern Gaza Strip on Wednesday. There was no immediate comment from Hamas. Families of the Israeli and foreign hostages still held in Gaza welcomed the news about Sinwar, but repeated their call for a deal to bring the hostages home. Sinwar was named as Hamas's overall leader following the assassination of political chief Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran in July. He was believed to be hiding in tunnels Hamas has built under Gaza over the past 2 decades. His death could dial up hostilities in the Middle East, where the prospect of an even wider conflict has grown. Israel has launched a ground campaign in Lebanon over the past month, and is now planning a response to an October 1st missile attack carried out by Iran, ally of Hamas and Lebanon's Hezbollah. But the death of the man who planned the attack last year, in which fighters killed 1,200 people in Israel and captured more than 250 hostages, could also help push forward stalled efforts to end the war he triggered, which has killed more than 42,000 Palestinians.
Now, let me straight away go to Itai Melchior, and then I'll go to Lebanon. And my question to you is there a chance for a ceasefire, or are we going to witness a more intense military action before there's a new president in the United States of America, sir?
We are talking about 3 different fronts, so it's a good question. On 2 of the fronts, I think Israel has delivered a major blow, which makes the chance for a ceasefire higher. I remind your viewers that for a Gaza war to be over, what Israel demands is the hostages. We still have more than 100 hostages held for over a year already in the tunnels of Hamas. And if they are returned safely and Hamas lays down its arm, Israel has also promised safe passage for those who do give in hostages that they are holding. And I think that is this chance of finishing the fighting on that front. In Lebanon, again, right now, Israel is still finding more and more weapons, hiding places that were planned for attacking Israel, and Israel is clearing up that area. But I think that if a serious offer is on the table from the Hezbollah, who's also been dealt a major blow, I think that's something that can be discussed, going back to something along 1701, but this time being enforced. The third front with Iran, Israel has vowed to strike back, and we still have to wait and see how that pans out.
Do you feel that Israel has been able to meet its strategic objectives in Gaza after eliminating Sinwar?
No, you cannot say that. Israel, to begin with, had a few goals in the Gaza offensive. One was to dismantle Hamas as a fighting organization. That is mostly done. I think that we can safely say that about 80% of Hamas military capacity has been dealt a severe blow. It's no longer acting as an army, but still Hamas has strong control in Gaza, and that cannot be. So that's one goal that has not been met, even though big steps have been made towards it. The other goal was bringing back the hostages. And again, here we still have more than 100 hostages held captive. And until they are not home, we cannot say that we've met our goals in Gaza.
Lev, do you think that is it feasible for deep buffers which Israel desires to create in Gaza and Lebanon? Is it possible, those deep buffers?
I think that although Sinwar and his chamchas are dead, and also Nasrallah and his chamchas are also dead, we are speaking about 2 different fronts, because in Lebanon, Hezbollah can always retreat and regroup. up to Chabahar port, if we want to use our imagination, okay? While in Gaza, once we took the Rafah Egyptian border, the 13, 14 kilometers, all Gaza is blocked by Israel. It was a matter of time until we kill Sinwar and also his soldiers, his terrorists. So in a way, in Lebanon, I think we have some kind of domestic DESI consensus that we need some kind of a buffer. While as far as Gaza is concerned, we have our own domestic issues. What should be the solution in Gaza? But of course, since Sinwar was very harsh in the negotiations about the hostages, he delayed his answers and was very hawkish and harsh. Maybe now that the leadership moved more to Qatar, if it is indeed so, maybe we will have a move forward, and then we can see some kind of a ceasefire and maybe even some kind of a feasible solution.
Do you think that the Israel has been able to reshape the regional landscape through the two wars?
Again, depends how modest you are. Okay, I don't think that Israel is like a big enough player in this jungle to reshape the Middle East. But if we are, let's say, more humble, and the only thing that we want is not to have Iranian proxies on our border, then there is a good chance that after the war in Lebanon and in Gaza, our geostrategic situation will be much easier than it was on 6th of October last year.
Okay, let me go across to Itai. Itai, there was an article in Economist today, and they were making a point. It was a lead article in The Economist, and the point was that the entire leadership of the Hamas has been destroyed. And the death of Sinwar is a big blow to Hamas. But then their forces, the military forces, have gone into the guerrilla mode, in the sense that they have melted into the population. It is like when de-Baathification was done by Americans in Iraq, they all melted into the population and it led to creation of ISIS. So then how does Israel deal with Hamas commandos going into the guerrilla mode? Because it's obvious that Israel has not been able to neutralize each and every Hamas military personnel. It's very evident.
That is true, and that is one of the big problems when fighting guerrilla organizations. We know for a fact that Hamas has been hiding behind civilians and regrouping even in civilian shelters. One of the ideas about Sinwar's movements was actually trying to get to a civilian shelter that where he was obviously en route to when he was killed. And that is a big problem. And again, the only way to fight it is one, blocking off all possible supplies. If there's no weapons coming in from the Philadelphia corridor, from the Egyptian border, if there's no money coming in for terrorism, in the end, you can dry it up. You can never dry it up completely. Remember, Hamas is part of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's an organization that's designated as a terrorist organization in many countries around the world and still active and still has people who follow its ideology and are bent on killing civilians and demolishing the West and Israel as the proxy of the West, let's call it. And therefore, you're right, you cannot get to each and every Hamas fighter, but you can certainly diminish the capacity of Hamas to act as an organized terrorist organization and turn it more into an issue of singles or small cells acting, and then it's a matter of intelligence. And then the big question is, who will control the area with boots on the ground in the day after?
But then, Itai, is it possible to shield Israeli citizens from the fragile border? Even if you have mowed the lawn, if I have to use the military term, even if you have mowed the lawn, is it possible to shield your citizens without any political solution from that southern border or the northern border?
So even with a political solution, which is what will happen in the end, you still cannot seal it because we always know that there is a lot of money and a lot of ideology behind these organizations. So they will always keep trying. Just today, we had a terror attack from our longest and most quiet border with Jordan of a couple of terrorists that infiltrated in southern Israel from the Jordan border. And again, totally sealing off and walls, we know, are never the solution. So in the end, it's a combination of, yes, political solutions and agreements. Then, for example, in the north, having UNIFIL really fulfill its main mandate and stop terrorists from, again, amassing on Israel's northern border. And like mowing the lawn, as you said, that's something that never ends. Unless you've got a synthetic lawn, you will have to keep mowing it once in a while, keep an open eye, not be afraid to act when you see that there is an accumulation of activity on the other side of the border. And the world must also understand that this is something that they need to support.
And let me now come down to the most crucial aspect of our conversation. And I'll start with Lev. The most crucial aspect is that you have Iran in the arena. Iran has supported Hezbollah, Iran has supported the Houthis, Iran has supported the Hamas. Iran has galvanized the entire region against Israel. And for the first time that the proxy war has ended, though there is no direct war, but two states have fired Iran has fired ballistic missiles against Israel, and last time around Israel also fired a missile telling them that they have the capacity to strike. But nothing has changed in context of Israel. Lebanon has paid the cost, Hezbollah has paid the price, Hamas has paid the price, the civilians of Gaza have paid a huge price. 40,000 people are dead. But then the main fulcrum of this, Iran remains where it was. Lev.
I think Iranian biggest weakness is that for them, Arab blood, whether it is Houthi blood or West Bank or Gaza or Lebanon or Iraq, is very cheap, while Iranian blood is very costly. Still, Iranians live very normally in Tehran, Shiraz, and other Persian Iranian cities. And the one reason that Iran was so successful in bringing in all these proxies is because they actually believed that once they will be in danger, Iran will put its boots in the war with Israel. And now that we see that the appetite of Iran to fight directly with Israel is not that big, they are not saving Hamas, they are not saving Hezbollah. The question is if what we will see after the war is the same, the same solidarity between the Arab forces and Iran. I'm not sure we will see the same solidarity after the war, because all these Arab forces saw that the Iranians do not really care about them. They are not really ready to give their own blood and to put their own boots in the conflict.
What do you think will be the deterrence against Iran?
Again, I think that what we should ask ourselves is why it was so easy for Iran to have these proxies. And I think many of the reasons they're like Hogay ahead, they're not there anymore. So it is not only the question what will be with Iran. The question is what will be the power of Iran outside the boundaries of Iran. So again, I'm not that optimistic, okay? I'm sure that still Iran will have its own allies, but there is no question that Hezbollah and Hamas were expecting much more from Iran during a direct fight against Israel. And now that everybody sees that Iran is not really ready to fight Israel and America directly, it will not be that easy for Iran to get new allies.
Last time Israel responded. This time after the ballistic attack, Israel has not responded. Why?
Israel has not responded yet. Israel will respond.
Okay, yet is the word.
There have been numerous discussions here. The Americans have applied a lot of pressure. You can see some of the threats Iran has made have an effect. For example, we saw just this week the Qataris saying, yes, there is an American airbase here, the biggest one in the Middle East, but we won't allow the Americans to use it to launch an attack on any country. So that means that in de facto, it's a very nice recreational base, but not really an offensive base. And also, we've seen behind the scenes a lot of pressure from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, for Israel not to attack strategic oil installations in Iran, as Iran has vowed to strike them if Israel strikes Iran. So it's a big problem. But remember, Iran has many problems of its own. And yes, an octopus is still an octopus, even if it only has 4 or 5 or 6 tentacles. But 2 of the tentacles have been severely damaged. And I think also the Houthis are now on the receiving end from the US and the UK. And Israel has demonstrated that they are not such a big threat to Israel. And actually, Israel can strike also at that distance. The situation in Iran is not good. And polls show again and again that the majority of Iranians are not happy with the government's policy vis-a-vis Israel and foreign affairs and nuclear, and would rather have a good life. Most of them don't have any beef, anything against Israel. And therefore, that is some pressure I think that the Iranians will have to take into account. Yes, it's a tyranny. Yes, it's not a democracy. And the government can still do what it likes, and the Ayatollahs. But still, I think we'll see more and more pressure. And I think after Israel attacks, where and when it does that, we will see mounting pressure also internally in Iran, which will make it more difficult for Iran. And I don't think they're interested in a full-out war right now, as is not the rest of the world.
Taking care of Hamas was far easier for Israel than actually going after Hezbollah, which is entrenched in a separate state. What can be the long-term strategy? Because I don't think Israel will be there indefinitely, which is now right now a shallow incursion into the state of Lebanon.
Certainly, but we saw also a rift today. We just saw the Prime Minister of Lebanon questioning how come Iran is suddenly saying it's willing to negotiate 1701 with the French, while Iran is not even a side to the agreement between Israel and Lebanon, brokered by the UN and the US. And so we have to see how Lebanon actually gets help. Lebanon needs a lot of help. Any entity which has a parasite in it gets weakened, and Lebanon which used to be a blooming country, Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East, has been many years in a bad situation, also because of foreign entities meddling in their affairs. I think that Lebanon needs all the help it can get. Lebanese army needs to be stronger than the foreign Hezbollah, Iranian-led Hezbollah. And I think that if this can be achieved, there can be a peace and quiet on Israel's northern border, and southern Lebanon, which is a beautiful area, can enjoy tourism and much more benefits if we just can stop this constant amassing of power on that border.
Lev, people expected Mashal to make a statement, but the statement has come from Khalil al-Hayya on Sinwar. Your comments?
Please repeat the question.
People were expecting the statement to come from Khalid Mashal on Sinwar, Yahya Sinwar, but instead of that, it has come from a different person. It has come from Khalil al-Hayya in a video statement.
Look, they are in a mess. Okay, I think there is internal conflict in Hamas where the power will be. Will it be, also that Yahya Sinwar has a brother, Muhammad. The question is if the power is still in Gaza, and they will decide what will be with the hostages, if still Hamas wants to be in power in Gaza and so on, or the power will move to Qatar. They're all billionaires, and I think they want some kind of an agreement right now because they see what is happening in Gaza. So we will see internal feuds because everybody was afraid of Yahya Sinwar. Once he was in power, you saw that everybody were his chamchas. They were all afraid to speak. Right now that he's like finished, he died by our forces. we will see the internal feuds within Hamas, and they will have to decide what they want next.
Do you agree? Do you agree with this? The point which Lev has made, Itai, that there is an inner power struggle, which Lev has just said?
There's been a power struggle between what they call the inside and the outside. The leadership in Qatar is living a very comfortable life, as the Lev mentioned. Many of them are billionaires, while the people inside are not living that lush life and are more on the front and fighting and in danger, even though Israel has shown that you can also be in danger if you are not in other countries. But yes, we will see how this rolls out. Of course, I think it's actually good if the external Hamas takes over, because that is going to make it easier for whoever tries to organize the Gaza Strip itself. With the leadership being far away and disconnected, there is a real possibility of what has been tried before but was killed literally by Hamas, which is giving the local people more power in governing their own affairs.
I would say that going by what we are witnessing on the ground, before I close the show, Itai, it boils down to the fact that the operations are going to be intensive both in the northern and the southern border. With this, they're not going to slow down?
Currently, I don't see any change in the Lebanese front. We've actually heard in the last 24 hours a few threats made by Hezbollah that they are going to escalate. We have not seen it yet. I live in the north of Israel. It's been a normal, crazy day with alarms in the north and people running for shelters along closer to the northern border, which is something your viewers will have a hard time to understand how you can live like that. But in the end, I don't see anything intensifying on that front. I think also in the Gaza border, this is a good chance maybe to reach an agreement. And I think that Israel is going to slow down a bit to create a chance for a real deal. Again, one of the main objectives here, or the main objective, is getting the hostages back. And if this shock to Hamas with the killing of Sinwar can lead to such a deal, this is in Israel's utmost interest. And therefore, I don't see Israel intensifying anything right now in Gaza. And remember that if Hamas could, in the past, they tried to retaliate when much lower level people were targeted. And this time we've seen literally nothing. So I think there is a good chance that we will actually have a few quiet days and very high level behind the scenes negotiations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Itai. Thank you, Lev, for the perspective you have given on the Israel. The conclusion I draw is that yes, Israel has been able to reshape the regional landscape. It's trying to build the borders which are safe for its citizens. It's trying to build buffer zones so that this sort of an attack which took place last year can never happen. But most important of all, it's going to negotiate a settlement which will not allow Hamas and Hezbollah to grip and regroup rapidly the way they did the last time around.
Hey, why are so many lights on? Is it Nowroz?
Settling accounts, uncle?
No, writing a love letter. Check your accounts every day and ensure there is no mismatch. Exchange sends trade-related messages daily. Do timely verification. And if there is a mismatch, inform the exchange immediately.
सोच कर, समझ कर, invest कर.
Why is the state not looking at putting an embargo on that?
As a Telangana person, I will not accept.
How do ordinary folks deal with this?
It's said that out of 7 diamonds across the world, 5 are cut and polished in India.
Don't forget, US is the largest consumer of, polished diamonds and the diamond jewelry. And that has taken a big beating for multiple reasons, but largely because of the consumer spending going down on these items. And that's essentially what has hit the diamond industry.
We are at a brim where you see not just one, but multiple
very strong global brands coming out of India, and we will make a global mark, and I'm convinced about that.
This and more. Streaming on News9 plus news is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Omar Abdullah's first cabinet meeting has sparked a controversy. The meeting on Thursday reportedly passed a resolution seeking the restoration of statehood to the Union territory. The report was carried out by a JNK-based newspaper, Daily Excelsior. There has been neither a confirmation nor denial of the report from the government. The Daily reported that the Ummah will travel to Delhi soon to hand over a draft of the resolution to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. However, opposition